What's up, YouTube? 大家好, minasan konnichiwa. This is Ben Parker. This time with another language tip learning video. A lot of people ask me how I'm learning Chinese and Japanese, and the answer is primarily YouTube. Okay, which is why I started doing these videos, these uploads. I figured if I'm learning Chinese and Japanese on YouTube, I figured I should use YouTube to maybe help people in their journeys as well. Okay, so 我学了中文3年了. I've been studying Chinese for 3 years. And 私勉強日本語が1年. I've been studying Japanese for 1 year. Okay, so I still have a long ways to go in terms of reaching my goals with Chinese and Japanese. But I do feel that I've learned a lot just from YouTube. So in this video, I want to share my thoughts on just kind of give my tips. I have 7 tips written down for how I study these languages, and hopefully you'll find some of these helpful as you go about your language learning journey. And yeah, the very first thing I want to say to everybody is when it comes to studying a language, you got to find out what works best for you, right? So if you feel like a tutor works best for you, get a tutor. There's a lot of great sites like italki.com where you can hook up with a language instructor and they can talk to you. A lot of Chinese and Japanese channels that I subscribe to, like Pimp Italki. So Italki isn't paying me to say this, but that's just one service that a lot of people like to use. So if something like that interests you, do that if you're just thinking a tutor. There's other sites like yoyochinese.com for Chinese, or smilenihongo.com for Japanese that offer, in addition to their free YouTube services, they also offer on their website paid courses that you can actually buy, right? And so if you're interested in once again, yoyochinese.com and smilenihongo.com do not pay me anything to say that. I'm just using them as an example. I think they're great sites for Chinese and Japanese. But if you're interested in, doing a structured course bundle kind of thing and having a website kind of guide you from one step to the next, and that's kind of the way you want to go, and that's the way you feel you'll best learn the language, then do that. So this is separate from my 7 tips here, but the first thing I'm going to say is whatever you feel works for you, do that. If you feel Duolingo is working for you, do Duolingo. If you feel that Rosetta Stone is great, you want to try Rosetta Stone, do Rosetta Stone. So before I list my 7 tips, I don't want to make it sound like I think studying on YouTube is the best way to do it. There's pros and cons to it. But studying on YouTube, self-study has been the way that I've personally chosen to attack it. And so for those that are interested in that route and are interested in figuring out, hey, how can I study on YouTube? And once again, I think there needs to be a lot of individual freedom here. That's the advantage of studying on YouTube for myself, is that it's in terms of money. I haven't spent a lot of money on learning these languages, which has been nice. But the downside is I've had to be a little more creative and sort of scrappy in terms of how I go about learning stuff, right? Because I don't have somebody necessarily spoon-feeding me from one lesson to the next, right? So what I want to do in this video is not tell you necessarily this is how you must do this is how you must study these languages, but rather this is what's worked for me, and if these ideas help you out, then fantastic. And keep in mind that I'm a learner of Chinese, a learner of Japanese. I still have a ways to go in terms of attaining fluency or whatever kind of goals. That's kind of the ultimate goal for myself, but I have a ways to go, but I feel what I'm doing is working, and it's helping me learn languages, yeah, just that. So anyway, these are my kind of thoughts on learning these languages on YouTube. And also too, it doesn't just apply to Chinese or Japanese, but if you're learning French, Spanish, German, Russian, Italian, Spanish, I mentioned Spanish, but whatever languages you're interested in learning, I think these tips can apply universally. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Ikimashou, soba, let's go. So the first one I have written down is to set a timer and establish a routine. So this is really, really important. This is really, really Very, very important. So set a timer, establish a routine. So if you're going to study on YouTube, like I've been doing, and you want to have that work, you got to set a timer and establish a routine for yourself, right? So you can't just be like, oh, like, I'm going to study on YouTube, like, sweet, like, I can study when I want, but then you never actually study. So you need to actually, like, set a routine for yourself, set a timer and say, I'm going to study this amount every day. So for myself, my goal that I set for myself is Mondays through Fridays. And I don't always hit this. Like, there's some, life happens and things happen. You kind of, but my goal is to do 90 minutes of Mandarin a day on YouTube. Okay. And then, I've been doing an hour of Japanese on YouTube, but next month in August, I'm planning to ramp it up to 90 minutes as well. So I'm giving both languages equal attention. Okay. And then, so 90 minutes of Mandarin on YouTube, 90 minutes of Japanese on YouTube a day, Monday through Friday. And then, 30 minutes in each language in the grammar book. Okay. So that's that's example of how I try to study. Okay. So most of it's on YouTube, 90 minutes for each language, and then 30 minutes for each language in the grammar book. Okay? And there's some days when I don't get to all of it, but I try to as best as I can. And I've just kind of set that in my mind. I was okay, like, boom, like, this is the expectation. This is the study plan. This is the routine. And then on the weekends, I take a little bit of a break. I think it's nice to take a little bit of a mental break. A little bit from the languages. I still tap into them. But not as hardcore. Just kind of a little bit of like a chill a little bit. So that's number one. So set a timer, establish a routine. Okay, that's number one. Okay, number two, pick certain themes to repeat. Yeah, just that. So to repeatedly study. That's what I wrote down. My handwriting's sloppy, but pick certain themes to repeatedly study. So for right now, example in Chinese. Something I've been working on is family terms. Okay, you might think, well, you've been studying Chinese for 3 years, like, don't you know all your family terms? In Chinese, family terms are actually quite complicated. So, like, it goes well beyond the basic of, like, baba, mama, didi, gaga, jie, jie, mei, mei, right? Brother and sister, mom and dad. Like, goes well beyond that. Like, depending on which side of the family someone is from, like if it's on your mom's side or your dad's side, if it's older or younger than you, so there's like 50 plus like terms for family members in Chinese. So it's not like English where it's like, oh, this is my uncle, my cousin. This is like, for me, like, regardless of whether an uncle is on my dad's side or my mom's side, like, it's always uncle, right? Chinese is not that way. So it's a lot more complicated. It's like, okay, if it's on my mom's side, and it's older than my mom, then I got to call them this. But if it's on my mom's side, but younger than my mom, I got to call them this. So it's a whole thing. So, like, I'm working on, like, memorizing those. Okay. And the same with Japanese, actually. So Japanese, same thing. I've been working on, while I'm doing the family term for Chinese, I've been working on, okay, repeatedly watching the same videos over and over again for our family terms in Japanese. Okay. So make sure that there's certain things, you kind of pick a theme, like, okay, I'm going to work on family members for a while. Okay, for maybe a month or a couple weeks, do family member terms. Or like, there was a time in Chinese where I was doing times a day. And there was a really dope video on Learn Chinese Now on like times a day in Chinese. I just kept watching it over and over and over again until I kind of got them memorized. A more recent example is like days of the week in Japanese, right? So I got that memorized now. So it goes, Monday is Getsuyobi, Tuesday is Kayobi, Wednesday is Suyobi, Thursday is Mokuyobi, Friday is Kinyobi, Saturday is Doyobi, and Sunday is Nichiyobi, right? So I kept watching that over and over and over again until I finally got days of the week memorized, right? So pick a theme, pick a certain thing to repeatedly study, whether it's days of the week, family members, colors are good, numbers. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there's so much, right? Body parts. Right, you gotta know how to talk about your body, right? Like, how do you say, like, oh, my nose, like, well, dutsutong, like, and it means I have a stomach ache in Chinese, right? So you gotta learn how to say all that kind of stuff. So, there's so many different kinds of themes you can pick, but kind of like in a real class, like, you gotta pick, like, okay, I want to, and I always say, like, start with the most basic stuff. So if you just start out with the language, like, numbers are great to start with, and like days of the week, and then month. like kind of think of the most basic kind of stuff. Like maybe if you're starting off with a language, like maybe you don't like learn how to like say like, I don't know, like memorize how to say all the different countries in the world. That can maybe come later, or like technological terms or like medical terms, right? Like not just be on the body, but like how do you say like heart attack or something. Like I don't even know how to say that in Chinese, right? Because you don't talk about that as much, right? Although I probably should learn that one. There's one on my list I can do. But yeah, so just that's the point, right? Is like you start with the basics and kind of repeatedly study the same stuff over and over again. If there's a video you like that helps incorporate that helps you learn that topic, study that. Okay, so that's number 2. And that kind of actually blends into number 3, which is watch the same videos multiple times. So if it's about a certain topic like body parts or like color or whatever the topic is, watch the same videos over again. Or if it's like a Chinese on the street interview or a Japanese on the street interview, where they're asking people, there's a great series called Easy Languages, great YouTube channel called Easy Languages, for like, has got some of languages like Spanish, German, Chinese, Russian, Japanese, and so even Cantonese. There's even Easy Cantonese. So just look that up if you're interested in like on the street interviews for your language that you're learning. Easy English, if you're learning English, they have that too. But anyway, so like watch the same videos over and over again. So like so if you YouTube like search like Easy Mandarin, right? On there, the very first video, the very first Easy Taiwanese Mandarin video, I've watched that video like hundreds of times, right? It's like probably over 100, like several hundred times probably over these last 3 years. And just keep watching, because every time you watch it, there's something new that will pop out. Even with like Big Bird in China, Big Bird Japan, which I also watch too, as well. It's the same thing. Like I watch those because there's something new I pick out every time. So yeah, so if you're learning Chinese or Japanese, like Big Bird Japan, Big Bird China, like those are great. Those are fun, entertaining, educational, and a little bit of, and some language study in there. And then a Big Bird in China, what's really cool is like it starts off with like it lists like the writing's like all in Chinese, and they do the credits, so you get to like see the characters and stuff. So that's definitely something to check out. That's a different thing, but yeah, Big Bird China, great. And I watch those over and over again, right? So definitely, that's something I emphasize as well. Is to watch the same videos over and over and over again. Don't just watch one video and like, okay, I'm done watching that. Go back and watch it again, right? Because that's how you're gonna like pick up stuff. Oh, I didn't catch that this time, or I didn't hear that last time, but I hear it now, right? So yeah, just that. Number 4 is be open to new teachers and methods. Okay, this is really important. So I found one of the big benefits of studying on YouTube is that you don't have just like one teacher. You don't just have like one instructor that's teaching you the language. You have multiple. You have several. You have several different sources that you're using, and this is great, right? So if like for myself, like I've mentioned my top favorite channels, but like there's several new ones that I've added to the list since I made that first video. So just be open to learning from new teachers and learning new methods. There's something that, all these people that are uploading videos on YouTube that are teaching the Chinese and Japanese, like you can tell who the legit ones are. Like they're all professionally done and so forth. Just be open to like testing them out and seeing which teachers you like suit your style. So like I really like Yo-Yo Chinese's videos. I really like E-Chinese Learning's videos. There's one called Mandarin with Grace. There's like Chinese Corner. So many like Mandarin HQ. Like there's just so many that I like. And I also like watching like Da Shan, who's a Chinese comedian. I really like Jesse Appel. He's a comedian. Monkey Abroad. So like I really like sampling a lot of different teachers, ChineseClass101.com, JapanesePod101.com. Like there's just so many that I kind of sample and choose from, and it's great because I feel like I'm getting some from different teachers, right? And they all have different styles and perspectives in the language, and that helps. So definitely be open to new teachers and methods. That's not to say if you really find a teacher you like or a channel you really like that you don't keep using it, like keep using it, but like be open to like, hey, I'm gonna try someone else, like, And so I built up my Rolodex to the point that now it's like, I don't necessarily watch Yo-Yo Chinese every day, maybe, right? Because there's other people I like, but that's still my loop, my Rolodex. So be open to new teachers and methods. Okay, that's enough for that topic, that tip. Number 5. Okay, 5, cinco, go. Ooh, that's 5. Dive in, just dive into the language, man. Like, and what I mean by this is like, don't be afraid to start watching videos or clips that are above your level. Obviously, like if you're just starting off with the language, like you don't want to maybe turn on the news and just like, oh, like sweet, I'm learning. Like you got to start at a lower level and base to kind of get us up to that level. But like from the get go, for myself, when I was learning Chinese, like I immediately started listening to the Easy Mandarin videos on YouTube. I started watching those immediately. The Easy Mandarin from the Easy Language series, which is like Chinese on the street. So I was immediately listening to like real Chinese people on the street answering real questions like, 你今天的这里做什么? What are you doing here today? And then responding with stuff. And even though initially like I didn't get much out of it or anything at all, like I just kind of kept listening. You kind of pick up the rhythm of the language, and eventually you start kind of noticing more and more each time. Oh, I heard that, or oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's what such and such thing means. So definitely just dive into language. Don't be afraid to like, listen to stuff that's above your level. Because that's how you start to kind of get accustomed to hearing the language at a more faster, normal speed that you're going to hear in real life. Okay, so don't be afraid to dive in and just start kind of immerse, because that's how babies supposedly learn languages, right? Or children, is they're just around all the time. They just hear it, right? So this technique is called remote immersion, or it's called immersion, right? So don't be afraid to like quote unquote immerse yourself in the language, provided that you're doing steps 1 through 4. And you're doing structured lessons, and you're watching the same stuff over and over again. You have a theme you're studying. Don't be afraid to like spend like maybe 15 minutes just like diving in and seeing what can I pick out from this. Don't be afraid to just dive in head first, so to speak, into the language. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay. Number 6 is grammar books. Okay, so I have pimped my grammar books before, but here they are again. For Japanese, I like this one a lot. This one's really good. Okay, Barron's Foreign Language Guides Japanese Grammar. This one's been really good. Also, this kanji book as well, Guide to Reading and Writing Japanese. This has been really good. Okay, and then Modern Mandarin Chinese Grammar. Okay, there we go. All right, hopefully I got it up right. Okay, so I got a Modern Chinese Grammar, and those are my grammar books. So, any rate, so definitely like incorporate a grammar book into the equation. Okay, so for Chinese, for example, the grammar book is really helpful because it's got some structure, so it helps provide a little more structure. So I definitely don't think it's good to do only YouTube and nothing else. Like definitely have a grammar book you can go to that like explains lessons to you and explains concepts to you. Okay, it just helps provide a little bit more structure. It guarantees you're getting some structure in your study, or more structure into your study. And then also too, like for myself, like, the grammar book is great because it's a great place for me to like practice reading characters, right? Or like in my Japanese grammar book, well, and the kanji book as well, it has like a hiragana chart, a katakana chart, so I can like spend some time just like memorizing hiragana and katakana and kind of get those down. So definitely like get a grammar book. And take advantage of that. Okay, and the final tip is listen actively. Okay, or active listening. So if you're gonna listen to a video, or if you're watching like the news or something in your language, or you're watching an on the street interview with somebody, like, or whatever it is you're watching, actively listen as best you can. So don't just like. There's there's like active listening and passive listening. So like passive listening is like, for example, like, I don't know, like there's some YouTube channels that like show like, oh, like learn Chinese while you sleep, or learn Japanese while you sleep, or learn whatever language while you sleep. And those can be fine. Like if you just want to like go to sleep and like just listen to Chinese, like that's cool, that can help. But definitely spend some time when you're doing your actual study time. Make sure you're actively listening. You're actively like, okay, what can I pick out from this, and learning new vocabulary, because that's how I learn a lot of vocabulary, right? So by actively listening, like to like a Jesse Apple rap, for example, I I learned how to say like development, 发展, and 经济 economy, so like things like that. So like you just kind of repeatedly like, if you listen actively to stuff, that's how you that's how you that's how you gain that's how you learn new stuff. So or one way, right, is actively listening. Actively listen, right? So as you're watching something, pay attention to what's on the screen, and that's how you learn new stuff. Okay, actively listening. So listen with attentive ears to what's happening. Okay, and then yeah, that's basically it. Kind of two bonus ones, obviously, is if you can find an environment, if you can't find friends to practice your language with, that's absolutely fantastic. Like if you've got some friends that you can help you practice your language, that's great. That can really help accelerate the learning process. That's why I hit up LDS Mandarin ward, which is nearby my house. So I hit them up. They help me out a lot with Chinese because the whole service is in Mandarin. Unfortunately, due to the virus, I can't meet with them right now. But just that way, like when I'm there, like I'm listening to the language the whole time. I'm also like having interactions with people in Mandarin and having to force myself to use it. So definitely that's a key thing as well. So, but if you don't have that resource, the next best thing is tip number 5 that I gave, which is just to dive in and just like listen to stuff at advanced levels and just see what you can pick out and get used to the rhythm of the language. Okay, so that remote immersion can pay off as well. And then finally, the last one, just to have fun, right? If you learn a language, definitely make sure you got your priorities right, and you're doing it because you have fun with it. If you don't have fun learning a language, you're not going to learn it. There's just no way particularly with Chinese and Japanese, like I would not be where I'm at with, and I still have a long ways to go. But like, if I didn't have fun learning the languages, I would not be where I'm at with them. So definitely have fun. Make sure you're having fun with the languages, and that you keep it fun. Okay, so, and that's actually like one of the big benefits of YouTube is that you have more opportunities to keep it fun, right? So like for myself, like I found a lot of like channels that are just really funny, like Jared Fall and like Kevin in Shanghai, and Jesse Apple I've mentioned, Dashan and these guys that make it really, Jamie Lawman, like these guys that make it fun to learn Chinese, or like JapanesePop1.com, like Risa is like a hoot. She is super fun. She makes Japanese learning really, really fun. And fun in Japanese is tanoshi, so it's really tanoshi desu. So she makes Japanese just like mecha tanoshi, really fun. Definitely like that's a big plus. Is the big advantage of YouTube is that it makes it fun. It can make it fun if you find the right people. So, all right, that's it for this video. If anybody has any tips for me on how you feel learning languages, in terms of your tips for learning languages, feel free to comment below. I love to learn from everybody and anybody, and hopefully at least one person watching this video finds this to be helpful. I'm truly grateful for the people on YouTube that have uploaded content for free, so that I could benefit. So I'm just hoping to do the same thing for some people that are out there. So anyway, you guys have a good night, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And also too, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you find this interesting. And also, you can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The details will be in the description below, but the handle is slamdunk406, consistent across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Slamdunk406, that's my handle. Feel free to connect with me there as well if you'd like. And on that note, have a good night. Peace. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.